All right, cool. Well, so thank you very much, Justin, for the kind words. And I guess I've got nowhere to hide. I am a bit of an iconoclast when it comes to information security. And, you know, I tried to hide it for a while, but, you know, it is what it is. And so I founded my own company, InfoSec Innovations. And I'm the managing partner. And when I'm not running that company, I teach SANS 504. And many of my opinions come from what I've been seeing throughout my career. And if you look at the scoreboard, we're not doing well. And I think part of my role is to say that the emperor isn't wearing any clothes. And if I say something that offends, or if I say something that's a little too provocative, call me out on it. I've got no ego in this. Just the other day, just this morning, I sent a tweet out saying, hey, is hunting a thing because SIMs are failing us? And people were like, well, no, that's like a double check on our SIMs doing the right job. I don't know. Some people are using it because their SIM has failed them. So, I don't know. I'm just here to mix things up and start asking weird questions. The InfoSec Innovations motto is better information security through science, creativity, and caring. And what we're going to be talking about today is creativity. There is a dearth of creativity going on in SIMs. We are treating them as if they are a solved problem, and that is simply not true. One of the other things that I see is that people think that SIMs are these magical things that you can just deploy, set it and forget it, like a Ron Popeil thing. And I see everybody going, yeah, I know. Like, Mick, that's why we drink. Yeah, I know. I'm right there with you. One of the things that my company does is we will help you tune your SIM. And I'm here to tell you, the thing that makes me really sad about it is that when you tune a SIM and hot rod that thing, it's a great thing. You can do all kinds of stuff. And what I'm humbled to be here is to share with you some of the use cases that my clients and I have put together that were just bonkers. And so the talk is lesser used logs and why you should pay attention to them. But before I get into that, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the basics that you should have. These slides are available. This is like a month of content condensed into a half hour. So I'm going to go through some stuff really, really fast. So they're freely available. Go ahead and get them. And then I'll post this at the end of the talk as well. So if you didn't get it, don't worry, it'll be coming up again. We've got a big problem in our industry, and it's time that we admit it. And that problem is that we're not seeing the attacks because we're not looking. And while it makes for good drama in movies and stuff, it's horrible, horrible for defense. And that's where we're at. You know, a big part of Doug's talk was figuring out where you're blind operationally. And one of the things that really I wish that we could, like, if I could wave a magic wand and fix one thing about information security, one of the things that I would love to fix is that we cannot admit that we're wrong. Lawyers, regulators, managers will tell you, oh, no, we're meeting our due diligence, we're meeting our minimum standards of due care, all those magic buzzwords. And because if we ever would admit, you know, Lord help you, the class action lawsuit's going to be just off the charts. But one of the things that's sad is, earlier I said, look at the scoreboard. These are the breaches that have happened in 2017 so far. And I'm sorry that the font is so small, but I needed to fit them all. And here's the other thing, I had to make a clipping level of how big those breaches were. And Siemens was just released the other day. I had to submit these slides. Normally I'm working on my slide deck up until the time I present. My wife will vouch for that. I had to submit these so I don't have the latest breaches on there. And I don't want you to think, boy, you know, those people are wrong, they screwed up. No. If your organization hasn't been on here, just wait, your turn will come. And It's horrible, but the real fact of the matter is, and one of the reasons that I'm so passionate and opinionated about this stuff, is I've seen the table stakes. It's economic warfare. I got into computers because I like computing. I like the tech. I didn't know that I would be getting into geopolitics, and yet here we are. So, yes, sir. So these are a great question. The question is, when Mick is referring to breaches here, does he mean breaches in the legal definition where the data was compromised in some way, maybe exfiltrated out of the network? Yes, that's what I mean. These are situations of where these particular organizations had a duty to report. I would venture to say that there are many organizations that have been compromised in some fashion, that the data was not exfiltrated and they did not, due to regulatory or contractual reasons, have to announce it publicly. These are the publicly announced ones and of a certain size. I forget what I set the clipping threshold on when I was doing this research. I think it was like over, I want to say over 50,000, or maybe it was even more. But it was a big chunk. So it's bad. It's bad. And, you know, don't think that these people, like these organizations, are bad. Heck, some of them have a security team that's larger than your organization. So it's horrible. So what I want to share with you are some ideas on how we can change things up, because what we're doing isn't working at all. And there's a lot of gallows humor in the industry about how bad it is. As Justin mentioned, I used to work at an MSSP, and MSSP folks, even at different teams and companies, chat and share with one another. And one of the things that you will hear MSSPs talk about is a ticket send only client. You send in that ticket, and then that ticket ages out, because they don't do diddly boo with that ticket when it comes in. You know, there's a lot wrong with this industry, and what I want to do is talk about what I think are some minimum standards we need to have from a logging analysis, and then some creative things to move things forward. Here's some minimum things that you should be doing. You need to be looking at your DNS, your NetFlow, the operating system logs, and your application logs. Now, I'm going to go through this part relatively fast. You can get the deck, and you also have my contact info. But these are minimum things. Like when it comes to DNS, if you're not seeing malware domains being used in your organization, you have all kinds of fail. And I know this sounds weird. There are plenty of organizations that say, well, we have the Compliance Appliance 5000, and that will block any attempt to go to the malware domain. Problem solved, Miller time. And I say, cool, except why was that host even trying to go there? And then they go, wait, what? And there's this uncomfortable pause, and I'm like, no, really, why was it even going there? And that's the kind of analysis that we need to start doing. Why the heck are you having clients go to a dynamic DNS provider? You shouldn't. Like, there is zero legitimate business use that's going on that. And I say this with authority because I've got clients that are government entities, Fortune 1000 all the way up to like Fortune 10s, okay? And every single time we've investigated dynamic DNS hosts was just somebody goofing around or doing something they shouldn't have been doing. So don't even allow that. And for goodness sakes, DNS tunneling. Holy cow. I love doing pen tests. I don't think I'm particularly special when it comes to pen tests, but one of the things that makes me cry is when I use a tool like DNS Cat 2 made by Ron Bose, or we already talked about Mark Baggett. His son Luke helped co-author a tool with me called PowerCat. It's netcat written in PowerShell. I can open up arbitrary ports as long as you've got PowerShell on your environment. Doesn't even need to be admin in order to run this tool. But one of the things that's magical about it is that it does DNS tunneling. I can count on one hand the number of times clients have caught me using that tool. Now, here's the thing that's truly sad about it, is if you're looking at your DNS logs, DNS tunneling looks powerful weird. Like there is no way that I should be flying below the radar on that. And the fact that I do just really freaks me out. So be using DNS. In fact, if you're not doing anything else, just spend your time doing DNS logs. That is, you could make a career out of just this. Let's start talking NetFlow. The network layer is probably the best spot to start your investigation. And the reason why is you have comprehensive visibility. Start looking for workstation to workstation traffic. That is so bizarre. That is incredibly weird. And I literally have lost count of the number of times I have cracked the case wide open in under 5-10 minutes when I'm on the client network and I say, well, why is HR talking to the research and development team? And they go, well, they don't. And I'm like, well, I beg to differ. Look at these logs, they show it. And they're like, well, somebody should look into that. I'm like, hi, I'm Mick, here's my billable rate. You know, it's weird that nobody thinks to look at this. And yet, this is something that should be, you know, monitored all the time. Another one, DMZ outbound traffic. One of my most favorite things to do on a pen test is to find command injection on your web application servers. And I realize that's an attack from the 90s. I get it. Still works. Works great. And what's wild about that is one of the first things I will do when I find a command injection flaw, I ping myself. Simple ICMP echo request to my own IP. And then I see that ICMP echo request and I know it's party time. But the thing that boggles my mind is when I go back and do the run through with the team that I did the pen test for, and I say, hey, did you see that ping that came out of that box? They're like, well, what ping? I'm like, seriously? Why is any machine in your DMZ initiating an outbound connection? Like maybe like a mail server, maybe a file share server, something like that. Aside from that, it starts getting really thin. This is an easy, easy, easy win. Firewalls work both ways, folks. Egress filtering is where it's at. If you really want to drive your pen testers to frustration, do that. Other things, top talkers and biggest delta in 24 hours. Please start looking for that. One of the things that blows my mind, and they've been kicked through the mud and back, the Sony case, they had movies exfiltrated. Movies, folks. These weren't BitTorrents, these were actual raw movie files. Oh, we didn't see it. Really? Like, what the hell kind of bandwidth do you have that you don't see, like, a couple, I think it was about a dozen movies before they were hit theatrical release were exfiltrated, and they didn't see that? I don't even have much to say to that. I mean, it just boggles my imagination. Operating system logs. Please start doing your OS logs. At a minimum, look for failed logins. And I don't just mean normal failed logins. I mean look for password spray attacks. As a pen tester, I am sick and damn tired of how effective the password spray attack is. For those of you who don't know, password spray attack is where I will learn all the users in your environment, and then I will try one password for all the users in your environment. And the magic of that is I will log in or not, but I'm only doing one login attempt for that user account. Many SIMs have a default where they're looking for a number of failed attempts for one user account, not from a single source IP. And so I can iterate through, 10, 20,000 user accounts, and if I do something like winter 2017, capital W, because I know what your password policy is, I'm going to get in. And the worst thing is, the larger your organization is, the better statistical likelihood I have that I'm going to get in. And the thing that really, just drives me to drink almost when it comes to this is people say, well, it's not like that was a noisy attack. Really? Really. Or I'll have another one that's even weirder is somebody will say, well, but Mick, we had no idea, like, how could you enumerate our entire domain? We've got 100,000. We've got 200,000. The largest domain I ever enumerated was 350,000 user accounts. And they were like, there's no way you could do that. What level of access did you have? Regular old domain user. Don't need admin. All you have to do is type net space users space / domain and wait. That's it. Don't even need admin. Simple. Another one, unscheduled changes. All right, survey time. How many people love going to change management meetings? Really? Like, we got to talk, because you're doing something different than if you actually enjoy it. Here's the deal. They give out donuts? All right, those have to be mighty fine donuts. But I'd be willing to have it because I do like cream sticks. But here's the deal. Unscheduled changes are something you should detect and catch. If you're going through all the rigmarole of having a change management and a change review board, why the hell aren't you validating it? When I'm a pen tester and I pop a box and I start up a service for persistence and nobody catches that, I just chuckle and laugh. It's so weird, you know. Or unauthorized USB devices. You know, why bother exfiltrating data when you can plug a USB stick in and you're off to the races? And the thing that kills me is when, by the way, when people say, well, but we disabled USB storage. Oh, okay, that's great. There's the rubber ducky, there's the teensy. Those things are actually keyboards. Are you able to detect when there's 2 keyboards attached to a device? Be on the lookout for that if you can. Application logs. Oh, this is one of the biggest sins of our industry. We kind of stop at this. So start looking for unauthorized access. Start looking for probes. Start looking for non-standard use. This is the thing that really makes me bonkers. Like, I'll be doing an assessment, and one time when I was at my last job, Kaylee, one of the SOC analysts, said, hey, Mick, I think this machine's under attack. And I was like, okay, what makes you say that? And she said, well, here's the web requests that happened in the last 15 minutes. And it was over 1 million for a mom and pop manufacturing place. I was like, well, Kaylee, I think you are onto something. You know, and like it's not that hard, right? And the whole, you know, if you think back to that slide where the guy was sword fighting with his, you know, blindfold on, that's the problem that we've got as an industry, is not enough people are looking. They're expecting some sort of easy button. They're expecting some sort of, like, I have been hacked .txt log. And I wish that existed. That'd be great. We wouldn't have this summit. We'd be out at the pool, like having, you know, beverages with little cocktail umbrellas. We can do that later, but for now, we got to sit and, for our sins, we got to hear this crazy Mick talk about all these problems. Look, John Strand has a great quote that I love to talk about at moments like this. Every time you press the easy button, God deploys a botnet in your network. It's true. It's true. We just got to start getting a little more creative, folks. So, Doug posted this up. I'm going to put it up again anyway because it's that awesome. As I said, I did have to submit my slides early, so it wasn't like I was like, ooh, this is a great project. Even if you can't deploy the full toolkit, I would encourage you to look at the modules. They have different detection logics for different operating systems, different network devices. The Windows section is dynamite. Dynamite. If you are paying somebody a lot of money, a consultant a lot of money to help build your use cases, you owe it to yourself to look at this project and build your use cases before you hire them, because you're going to save yourself buckets of money. So, okay. Now on to the strange stuff, because you got all that? Like, some people are like, oh, Mick, this is crazy what we're not doing all this. Well, buckle up. It's about to get even worse. Okay, so here's some things that I want you to start thinking about. And I'm going to walk through each one. So, production database error logs. There are exactly 2 reasons you should have errors in prod, both of which are bad. Number 1, you have promoted janky code to prod. You need to get that fixed. Or number 2, myself or some other attacker has found a SQL injection flaw and we are bumbling in the initial stages of the attack while we try to learn your database environment. Those are literally the only 2 reasons you will ever have errors in prod. Now, here's the reason that I talk about doing the database error log. Have you ever asked a DBA to turn on auditing on a database? Yeah. You know what? I used to be a DBA, and I had a pipe wrench at my cubicle that I would wave, and I'm not even kidding. I had a pipe wrench at my cubicle that I would wave when the security team would come by and say, you know, you need to turn the audit levels all the way up. On a real database, if you turn on all the log levels, you're looking at about a 20% hit, maybe more. On a web cluster, or I'm sorry, on a database cluster, that means maybe buying another machine. I don't know if you guys priced out like what Oracle charges for some of their enterprise gear, but you're signing them up for a hell of a lot of money. Turning on error logging, though, is practically free from a resource perspective. They will gladly turn that on. You get the same level of access, you get the same level of understanding when the bad guys are doing stuff. Just be more surgical, do this. And by the way, production. Don't do this in dev. Like, you would expect there to be errors and stuff in dev, so please production only. NetFlow Redux, part 2. Look for first-time connections. Your network is boring. The network, not the people, right? So the network should be boring. Machines connect to the same machines over and over again. They're doing the same thing day in and day out. The first time a host talks to a new host, that's interesting. One of my favorite use cases with the Bro is to look at the con log, the connection log, and when I see the first time a host connects to another host, that's meaningful. Take a look at that. Look for beacons. Use tools like Rita from Black Hills InfoSec. Security Onion's got some really cool features coming out that will help with beaconing now. So be on the lookout for that. And the thing that boggles my mind is how just bad even some of the commercial and open source tools are for looking for TLS malware. So Metasploit uses TLS by default. Meterpreter uses TLS. And people are like, well, it's really hard to detect. Maybe, depending on the skill level. The problem is that those certificates, they've actually deliberately made the Metasploit certificates detectable. They really have. It's one of those, you got to be this high to ride the ride. Many pen testers do not ever change them. Many attackers do not change them. Be on the lookout for that. So look for simple telltales like this because they work. Concurrent logins. When you see somebody logging in and that same user account logging in again, you got a problem. There's a couple exceptions. You know, some admins might be logging into multiple machines at a time. The help desk might be doing that too. Maybe some service accounts. After that, it gets really, really sparse. If you're seeing multiple login, you've got a problem. At the very, very best, you have somebody that's sharing their account with a user, then that's a no-no. But more than likely what's happened is a bad guy's run a tool like Mimikatz on your network and is just starting to hopscotch around using something like maybe like Bloodhound to learn about all the machines they need to compromise in order to become domain admin or whatever user account they're gunning for. Concurrent logins are simple to look for with any SIM. Heck, you don't even need a SIM for this. You can catch this. You should catch this. And this is one of my favorite ways, actually. Right after I do NetFlow analysis, this is one of the things that me and my crew do from an incident response standpoint. Switch data. Oh, goodness, goodness, goodness. So when you unplug a device from the network jack, you will get a link down status on that switch port. What kills me is many organizations who spend gobs of money on InfoSec will do things like deploy NAC, Network Access Control, or like Cisco ICE, you might have heard of that one. Then they don't pay attention to what the switch port status is. I will plug in a PWN plug into the printer port and become the printer. Nobody sees the link down. Nobody sees the MAC address that changes. By the way, one of my favorite things to do is I will actually, in PWN devices from Pony Express, you can actually very easily change the MAC address. And I almost always change the MAC address to be dead beef. Because why not, right? You totally can. And when nobody sees that, I'm like, look, like I'm trying to get caught and you don't catch me. And people go, but why would we look for the MAC addresses? Well, because that's why. I get that I'm asking you to do something strange. I get that this is bizarre. Yes, sir? Okay, excellent question. The question was, what do you do on an enterprise network where the MAC is changing all the time and stuff is like dynamically changing? Well, number one, you have to pick your battles. You're not going to be able to do this in this level of analysis in every network. But what I'm talking specifically about here are there are certain devices that are plugged in and they just stay the same. Printers, video conferencing, hard phones, things that are just appliances on the network and don't change at all. Another one that's weird is data center networks where the servers are not cloud, where they're being built on demand, but where you have systems that are just set up and they're there for a long while. Be on the lookout for those. It's not perfect for everywhere. So, fair point. But it's something that you can use to your advantage and should be. What really is unfortunate about this scenario with the Pony Express devices, I love them, by the way. I don't get any money for suggesting them. Wish I did. What's really sad about this was I've used these a couple times against client networks that had everything buttoned down. And I put this device to man in the middle as the printer, and then all of a sudden, the next day, the printer started connecting to network shares. Nobody saw that, And so the thing that I want you to get in your head is there is no such a thing as an attack where there's no forensic evidence generated. I love digital forensics. And one of the things that I've learned is no matter how stealthy the bad guy is, they have to touch one of the three. They're touching either network, memory, or disk. Look in those different places and you will find the adversary. Also, look for protocols in odd spots. Workstation LAN traffic should be boring. You should not be seeing things like VRRP. You should not be seeing Cisco Discovery Protocol or local link discovery protocol from workstations. And if you do, it should be very small time where a device is getting configured initially. If you see that happening over and over again, you either have a misconfigured device or you have somebody that's getting ready to do like a VoIP hop attack. So be on the lookout on that. Bottom line is odd protocols are odd. Know what normal looks like in the different network segments. Odd logins. Odd login types. People should be logging in as interactive or network. That's about it. If you see a service account logging in interactive, pour yourself a nice big bourbon because you're in for a long incident response. And that happens. And, be on the lookout for password spray. And I say Shutter UBA. User behavior analysis works. It's a good thing. The only reason that I get a little squirrely about it is some of the vendors are using it as a bit of snake oil. That said, you should be able to know when people are doing things outside normal business hours and when things are going a little awry. That's it. Look for Wi-Fi. This is another one that people kind of forgot the basics. If you have a device that is probing over and over and over again, you got somebody running like Insider or some sort of tool like that, they're probing your network. Find them, have a talk with them, or kick them off your property. And the other one that just boggles my mind is Wi-Fi Response. If you see a single MAC address saying, oh yeah, I'm this SSID, I'm this SSID, I'm this SSID, and especially if they're rogue SSIDs, you got somebody running karma in your network. Find them, talk with them, and then have law enforcement deal with them. People chuckle about this, but I've dealt with cases where people had Wi-Fi skimmers in the gas station pumps. It's actually really clever. You know, criminals sometimes are rather crafty, and this one set it up so all they had to do was drive by, and they would steal the credit card info. They didn't have to break open the top again, which I thought that was a rather clever hack. Still bad, so don't do that, but it was a clever hack. Also, they did a thing of they were broadcasting on a signal that you're not supposed to use in North America. So, you know, if you're breaking the law, you might as well break the law, right? So, yeah, be on the lookout for this. I know this sounds weird, but if you're concerned about people doing this, look for it. Also, look for badge access. This is the one that I just lose my mind. We make everybody have those little key card badges. You have to badge everywhere to go anywhere, and we don't look at the logs. Are you freaking kidding me? You know, look for people that are basically dialing for dollars, that are trying to get into doors. Look for people who are the first in and the last out. Maybe they're a hard worker, or maybe they're just, you know, needing some extra coaching to be better. Or maybe they're doing all kinds of corporate espionage. Look at a badge being used for PTO. I have a client that when you file for PTO, your badge is disabled. You physically cannot go into the building until your PTO is up. I think that's awesome. That same client also has a SIM alarm, and this was one of the best ones we ever built. If you badge into the building and it takes you more than 20 minutes to do a login to your workstation, we go find you. Reason being, maybe you're going walkabout. Maybe you slipped and fell. Maybe security needs to help you out. I don't know. What you need to be on the lookout for is somebody who's doing odd behaviors. And I've talked about this specific slide before at another conference that was local to me. I'm out of Columbus, Ohio. And they said, you want us to monitor when somebody badges into the building and if they don't log in within a certain time? Like, that's creepy. You're going too far, man. That's Orwellian. I'm like, really? Because, like, what are you doing with their email? Do you read their email? And then it got real quiet. And I'm like, so you're reading their email, but somehow you badging in is the bridge where okay, that's what we're cutting it off at. Seems a little arbitrary to me, but whatever. All right. I'm out of time. I'm not out of rant, though. So if you want, come up and chat with me. I'm here the remainder of this, and I'm actually going to be helping with 555 this week, so excited about that. Yeah. I've got some odd advice for you. Forget the standards. SIM and log analysis is relatively new as far as information security goes. I see so many of my clients saying, hey, we want to follow the industry best practice. You know what the industry best practice is? It's some dude and some dudette like in it. Hey, do you think this would, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Okay, blah, 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 blah. It's a standard now. We're going to have people review it. And if nobody says anything, standard. If you have to hit certain standards, hit those standards. But you know what? Understand that they're just somebody doing, sounds good. It's not coming down from a mountaintop. It's not carved in stone. Understand that they're just trying to do something. What I want you to do is tell your story. Figure out what you want the SIM to tell you and then walk backwards. Find the log sources that support that. Start talking with the business and say, hey, are there any things in the business that aren't working too well, that this thing we've got that can do all kinds of magical correlation, could that maybe help you? You want to talk about getting funding for a SIM project, that's how you go about doing it. I had a client that was a call center, and they had a call center that was located not too far from it literally was next door to a railroad, like train tracks. And because of the amount of vibrations that came through, they had a rather higher than average hard drive fail rate. And when the phone, like when that analyst on the phone, that associate couldn't take calls, that was lost money. We configured their SIM to consume the smart drive alert status. So they knew when a hard drive failure was imminent, and their downtime for their associates went from being, something that they cared about. It didn't strike me as a huge number, but they cared about it a great deal. It went to 0. A SIM can be a magical thing. I said that I love hot rodding them, and I do. The key to that, though, is you gotta understand what story you want the SIM to tell. I've given you some ideas on some things that you can do that many of my clients have liked. If you want to hear more, or you got ideas, let's jam. The bad guys are talking way too much, way too well. We as an industry need to do a better job. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.